Zach Brown had the rumor mill swirling when he made his comments on the next potential Mercedes driver lineup of Max Verstappen and George Russell, commenting, "You have Max's experience and youth, and you have George's youth. If I'm Mercedes, that's a pretty killer lineup for the next 5 years." In reference to Zach Brown's comments, Toto Wolff went on to say that Brown was likely just trying to get a rise out of Horner and that I wouldn't think too much about it. And then Zach went on to later clarify that it wasn't a prediction, it was just his opinion. But it got us thinking. With Max's contract clause, George's term with Williams ending at the end of 2021, and the general direction of the driver market this year, we wanted to examine the actual possibility of seeing these two at Mercedes in 2022.
So now, before we lay everything out on the table, we wanted to ask you, how possible do you think this driver lineup actually is? Let us know down in the comments. While you're down there, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave it a like and hit that subscribe button. First up, examining the possibility of Max Verstappen going to Mercedes. In our opinion, Max will likely stay with Red Bull for the duration of his contract if Red Bull do well in 2021. With the new regulations coming in 2022, I'm not sure Max would be so quick to jump to Mercedes before seeing how Red Bull will manage with the new regulations. Toto has been somewhat dismissive of the possibility of bringing Max into the team anytime soon, with Wolff saying that there's no opportunity currently to pull Verstappen away from Red Bull. In F1's Beyond the Grid podcast, he went on to say, "The situation around Max doesn't provide any opportunity now. He's bound to Red Bull." There's a lot of narrative around that, and Red Bull picked him up very early on when he joined Toro Rosso. So the situation is what it is. It's good for him, and good for us. Wolff has also previously held meetings with Max in the past before he eventually signed with Red Bull. Although Wolff expressed his interest in Verstappen early on before he entered Formula 1, he himself advised Max to accept Red Bull's driver's program offer, as Wolff said Mercedes would not and could not guarantee him a seat in Formula 1.
It also goes without saying that Max is the clear #1 driver and doesn't have to fight for preferred strategy, and he has a lot of involvement in the development of the car. Some could say this #1 driver status is rightfully deserved, as his recent teammates have not been up to Max's standard of driving. Which, to a certain extent, is fair. Max has been dominant within the team for many years. He's a proven race winner. Ever since Ferrari started to drop off the pace, Max has been one of the only drivers capable of challenging Mercedes. But would Max be willing to leave a preferential team environment and have to maybe fight against Lewis, a 7-time world champion, or even George, a driver that has been establishing his roots within the team for many years? Ultimately, a lot of things would have to happen in order for Mercedes to completely change their driver lineup. The current hunch is that Valtteri would have to fall off the pace and land 3rd or lower in the championship in order for Mercedes to maybe start questioning the possibility of replacing him. Lewis has made comments quite recently about feeling better than ever and wanting to continue in F1 for a few more years. Lewis has also stated that even if he breaks the record for the most amount of world drivers' titles, it doesn't mean he's more likely to retire. Whether or not this falls in line with our beliefs for next year, you'll just have to wait until our 2022 driver predictions video.
We also have to consider the team itself. The Hamilton and Rosberg driver lineup was, in Toto's words, very difficult given the level of negativity surrounding it. Since Nico's departure from the sport, Wolff has aimed to create a more harmonious team environment and does not want it to return to a place of hostility. This sentiment begs the question of whether Mercedes would risk disrupting the team atmosphere and work culture by bringing Max into the team, with his notorious hot-headed antics and fiery personality. However, Wolff has admitted that Verstappen was within his range of driver options, but recently at the launch of the W12, he said he would first consult with his current drivers before examining other contenders. He was quoted saying, "Max is certainly an outstanding young driver that will be on everyone's radar in the future. But as I said before, we are not flirting outside before we have a clear understanding with our two drivers."
Now moving on to George, he proved at the Sakir Grand Prix that he was more than ready to step up to the plate at Mercedes. He managed to learn the functions of a brand new car that wasn't fitted to him and a brand new team while wearing shoes that were sizes too small. A win would have been guaranteed had he not had to face the pit stop and puncture woes. Having spent 3 years at Williams at this point, surely Wolff is aware that George needs to get brought up to Mercedes sooner rather than later to ensure that his development as a driver is not stunted. Even Wolff was in agreement, saying to George in post-race commentary, "You were amazing, we're so sorry, your time will come again." George is known as Mr. Saturday, consistently outperforming his Williams in qualifying, but unfortunately not being able to maintain the race pace to secure points finishes. We'll just ignore that mistake in Imola for now, okay? But circling back to qualifying, Wolff has said that anything less than a 1-2 qualifying and race finish for Mercedes is not an ideal performance for the team. So given George's track record with impressive qualifying results, could he be the driver that Mercedes needs to consistently pull off a front row lockout? Toto Wolff has also extended his own contract with Mercedes for another 3 years, despite making comments in the past about examining his work-life balance and when he would eventually decide to step away from his role. Now, this is merely speculation, but could his contract extension be a sign that he's sticking around to manage George's transition into Mercedes? I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, but given Mercedes' failure to nurture and promote their junior talent in the past, is this Toto's way of saying he wants to ensure George gets the seat that he's practically been guaranteed? George has made it quite clear that his focus for the future is to end up in a permanent seat at Mercedes. While he is working incredibly hard on helping Williams in their development and pushing the team to improve, ultimately, he has not shied away from the obvious fact that he wants to be in a championship-winning car. As a result, fans and journalists alike have both said that it's only a matter of time until George fills this position on a permanent basis. But could it really come as soon as 2022? We'll just have to wait and see.
Ultimately, Mercedes need to start planning ahead here. While the current lineup of Lewis and Valtteri has been unstoppable, the next Mercedes driver will likely need at least a little bit of time and substantial practice in the car. This is to ensure that they are up to the team's standards, as well as preventing the risk of letting the Red Bull team catch up, especially in the rare moments of Mercedes' weakness.
But in terms of our personal thoughts, I, for one, think that George is much more likely to end up at Mercedes, especially in the relatively near future. I'm not convinced that Max will ever make the jump. I think his loyalty to Red Bull has been proven, and he's going to want to test the waters and see if Red Bull can catch up in the next few years.
I'm not even sure if we'll ever see Max switch teams at this point. He is so loyal to them, and it's almost just like when you think Red Bull, you think Max. And we're pretty certain that Christian Horner and Helmut Marko are gonna do their most to try and keep him around as long as possible. So we pass the question on to you now. Who do you think is more likely to end up at Mercedes, or will they in fact eventually both end up there in some year in the future? So let's say George and Max were to become the next drivers at Mercedes. This would have a huge change on the driver lineups at Red Bull, AlphaTauri, and Williams. Which drivers would come in to replace two of the greatest young talents that the sport has seen in recent years? We don't have the time to unpack all of that right now, so maybe we'll have to save that for another future video.
One thing's for sure though, this year's silly season has the potential to be one of the most shocking ones yet, especially with Toto saying he is focused on starting contract negotiations sooner rather than later. So maybe we won't have to wait too long before getting an update on the team's plans for 2022 and beyond.
Of course, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like, hit that subscribe button, and let us know down in the comment section if you think Max and George is a potential future lineup. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Bye!